Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Daniel.
So tonight we're going to talk about chapter 24. Do not light a lamp and put under a bowl. So we're going to start with 3 passages. So this is the first one here. Neither do people light a lamp and put under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. No one lights a lamp and hides it in a jar or put it under a bed. Instead, he puts it on a stand, and so those who come in can see the light. For this is nothing hidden that will be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into open. This is the third one, is the longest one. The disciples came to him and asked, "Why do you speak to the people in parables?" He replied, "Because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have in abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. This is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. And then is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will ever be hearing, but never understanding. You will ever be seeing, but never perceiving. For these people's heart has become calloused." It means hard. Right? They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand, and their hearts, and turn, and I'll heal them. So we see that those 3 parables here that we just got, we talk about how Jesus was speaking when he was here incarnated on earth, right? And he was always using parables because some information that he has to pass back then, he had to pass on a different way. He couldn't be very direct on them, right? So Jesus constantly hid the meaning of his own words behind allegories, which obviously not everybody understood. He explained that he spoke to people in parables because they weren't yet ready to understand certain things. Jesus noted that he did tell more to his disciples because they could understand what others still regarded as mysteries. Jesus had to speak to people at that time as you would do to children whose thought process haven't matured yet. So you're going to see later on the presentation here that some of his teachings, they were very, very direct, like love your neighbors, like treat others like you want to be treated. Very, very straightforward. No room for any questions, right? But some of those messages that he passed, his disciples, they were ready to understand already, right? Because they were more evolved than the average human beings that were incarnated back then. But him, with all his wisdom, he knew that in the future that message will be passed through time, and when human beings become more aware, more evolved, they will be able to understand all the teachings that he gave us 2,000 years ago, right? So as one generation succeeds another, humanity goes from the stage of infancy to youth and then to maturity, much as we experience these stages in our lives. Each thing has its own proper time. To use another analogy, if you sow a seed, it was supposed to be a seed, out of season, it won't take root. So again, we have so many examples about things that has their own time, right? Even when you go to school, you're not going to be teaching stuff that you're supposed to learn on I don't know, on the university to people on kindergarten, right? That information will have no value for them. It might be some important information, but they are not ready to understand. So for them, that information will be meaningless, right? And so many examples we might have about that. So we have to understand that if the people back then were not ready to understand it, it's because that was not the time for them to understand it, right? Of course, we talked about it already, but we're going to be evolving and evolving and evolving according our the plan that we got before we came here, and humanity is going to be able to evolve, and the planet will be able to evolve, and along with this evolvement, we'll be able to understand better those teachings. So if we don't understand, it's because it might not be the right time for us to get the message yet. But what good sense keeps veiled in a certain period will come to light later when people reach the proper level of development. Then, feeling the burden of their own unawareness, human beings will start an earnest search for the light, for the living light. Without the light of reason, faith will grow feeble, weak. Right? So, let's say the enlightened spirits, they put the messages to us that we can understand, right? So all the information that we get, we are getting pieces of truth that we are ready to understand, which is very good for us, because it's going to be the same thing, the same example that we were talking before with the kindergartens, right? If you get too much information, we'll not be able to acknowledge it, right? And if we try to to maintain our faith with some reason behind it, we'll not be able to do it, right? Because the information that we have make pretty much no sense for us. So it's natural that by the time that we get the understanding of those messages, we will start to trying to put them in practice. And along with our evolution, we will be able to put them in practice. We just have to keep trying, right? Of course, we have to understand that we have our free will. Everybody has their own free will, right? So people will decide what they want to do, right? We have the information, we understand what's right and what's wrong, but it doesn't mean that we're going to do the right thing, right? It's we have our free will to decide. And the beauty of that is that usually happens, the people that choose the wrongdoing is because they are not mature yet. It's like little kids, sometimes they might know what's wrong and what's right, but their passions, or they're not ready to do the right thing yet. They might think it's, no, I want to do whatever I want, right? But as they grow older, they're going to start understanding that they are supposed to do the right thing, and they will do it eventually, right? And we are using a lot of examples about kids and youth people, but it's the same thing with adults as well, right? Let's say 20-year-old person will have different points of view when the same person gets to 60 or to 80, right? It's going to be very, very different point of views. And you can almost tell for sure that the point of view that the person on an older stage of his life is going to be way more attuned with the rights than it was like 60 years ago, right? And that's the something that I think that is very interesting. So, providence is wise and careful enough to reveal truths gradually. These truths are only communicated as humanity shows itself mature enough to receive them. Again, we just talk about it, right? We're just going to get information that we can acknowledge. Otherwise, it's not going to make sense, and Providence knows about it, right? The enlightened species, they know about it, so we're good over here. Providence doesn't hide truth under a bowl, doesn't conceal it from humankind, but stands always ready to deal it out. So, as soon as we are ready to get a new information or to get a new piece of truth, we can rest sure that we'll get it. We'll get it. So absolute mysteries can't exist, and Jesus was right about them. About when he said that there is no secret that won't eventually be known. One day, everything that is now hidden will be uncovered. What we still don't understand will become clear and more advanced, in more advanced realms, where the extent of our purification will be progressively greater. By contrast, we still live here on earth as if we were trying to find our way in the midst of a thick fog. So, I think it was 2 weeks ago that Eduardo was talking about the evolution of the words. We were talking about primitive words and enlightened words and the pure words, right? So, we have to understand that we are pretty much halfway there, right? So, we shouldn't, the point of view that we should have is that it's okay for us to not understand everything, right? We shouldn't be feel sad because we don't know the whole truth. We shouldn't be thinking about that. I think the point of view that we should take is that we already know a lot if we compare ourselves to the primitive world, right? And we have to understand that the stage, the point that we are right now in our evolutionary path, we are not, our stage doesn't allow us to know all the truth, right? So that's going to be more natural by the time that we evolve ourselves and we move from planets to more evolved planets. So we're going to be able to acknowledge that information, right? So I don't believe that it's going to be very, the information that we're going to get through this life is going to be something outstanding. Maybe yes for us that we are on the same level, right? But we have no idea what's coming as soon as we evolve to different planets, right? I think it's going to be something so amazing that by the time we get there, we'll be able to look behind and say, yeah. So if I knew that back then, I wouldn't be able to take it, right? Maybe I wouldn't be able to deal with that. Who knows? So when it comes to declaring that love toward our neighbors and humbleness of heart were fundamental conditions for salvation, Jesus was perfectly clear and explicit, leaving no room for ambiguity in his statements. These were, after all, rules of conduct that everyone had to understand in order to practice faith. So, no question here, right? We know we have to love our neighbors. We know we have to treat people the same way that we want to be treated, right? We already know the law of cause and effect, right? So, it's a lot of things that just with that information that we already have and we already understand, we have no questions about it, right? If we are able to apply those teachings in our daily lives today, we're good to this existence, right? We're going to be we're going to have a very, very successful journey in this incarnation, right? Just with that piece of truth that we have right now. Of course, as soon as we evolve, we're going to get more information, but as you can see, Jesus was very, very clear when he gave that information to us, right? And you might find people that still don't understand it. Who knows, right? We have so many people that they don't believe in the idea that we have about Christianity has about a single, only God, right? Which is okay, right? But we know that in the future, because everybody, no matter what stage they are, they're going to progress to enlightened spirits, and sometime they're going to be able to understand it. Everybody will be able to understand it better, right? So Jesus revealed his thoughts only to his disciples. He revealed his thoughts only to his disciples who were more morally and intellectually advanced than others, and so could be introduced to knowledge for more abstract truths. Still, he wasn't specific on many points, even with the apostles, and in some areas preserved a complete understanding for later times. Today, the Spiritist doctrine is casting light on a greater number of obscure points. However, it doesn't do so indiscriminately. They have only gradually and prudently introduced the ideas, right? So, if you think about it, we just talked about it a few minutes ago, that the apostles, they were more evolved than the average people 2,000 years ago, right? And Jesus was able to share more information with them because they were able to understand it better, right? And of course, their task was to spread the message, right? Once Jesus was back to the spiritual world. So, but even though the information that he was able to pass to those apostles, it wasn't everything that there is a piece of truth. It was not the whole truth, right? So now we have to be, we should be very glad that we got more information with the Spiritist doctrine. And of course, if you were able to read the Gospel according to Spiritism, you see that pretty much all the passages that we have there, all the chapters, we have the chapters that we have on the Gospel, and then we have the teachings from the Spirits, right? That they help us to understand what Jesus meant, how should we get